When's the last time you went to a drive-in theater to see a movie? Probably a long time ago for most of you, but the trend is coming back. There used to be, back in the 1950s and 60s, 4,000 drive-in theaters around the country. Now there are 374. And there's just one here in Butler County where there used to be 6. This used to be the Pioneer Drive-In Theater on Route 8 north of Butler. Now it's called the Starlight Drive-In Theater, taken over recently by John Manson. Now, John, why did you get into the drive-in theater business?
Many people consider us being nuts, but my wife and I used to come here almost every weekend. This was our way of relaxing. We'd come, open up the hatch, lay down in the back of the vehicle, and just unwind from a busy work week. And we really had a passion for it. And when the opportunity presented itself for us to be able to go ahead and purchase the place, we did, and have made a number of changes now to reflect our own tastes. But it really was all about keeping the tradition alive for future generations.
Now, wasn't the Pioneer Drive-In Theater closed for a while before you bought it?
It was actually still open the whole time, but people thought it was closed because it really was run down, and the public just didn't realize that it was still in business. So that's one of the reasons we changed the name from the Pioneer to the Starlight, was to be able to show that there's a new game in town. You know, new owners, there's a change, and that was represented in the name change.
Now, it seems to me that back in the day, people used to go to drive-in movies to see second-run movies. They never saw first-run movies because those were run in the downtown movie houses. It's a little bit different today. It's changed.
Oh, absolutely. We show first-run, current double features on 3 different screens. So you have 6 different movies playing any given night. And like I said, there are first-run movies. So whatever you see at the indoor theater, you can come here and see it outdoor for half the price.
Now, this is an emerging operation since you took it over a few years ago. So there must have been, in the beginning, people wondering, number one, whether you were open, so you probably didn't get many people there. How many people turn out these days, and how many people can you fit in here?
Well, last year was our first full year of operation, and we had over 33,000 people come to the movies. Our capacity on all 3 screens is 430 cars. And so if you say an average of 4 people per car, that gets you up over 1,200, 1,600 people on a very busy night.
That would surprise a lot of people. Now, of course, food is one of the important things. People are here for several hours. They see several movies. I know you've changed the whole menu situation here at Starlight. Tell us about that.
Sure. When we came almost every weekend, we got tired of eating the same food week in and week out. So one of the things that we did was we expanded the menu, adding features such as barbecued pulled pork as a standard item on the menu. But every weekend we do specials. And this year we did specials such as haluski, hot and sweet sausage sandwiches, cabbage rolls, banana stuffed peppers, different things every weekend, because we do have the regulars that were like us that would come on a regular basis, and they like getting that variety, and my wife's cooking is fantastic.
Do you think that the variety of food is one of the reasons that brings people out, other than the movie?
Oh, absolutely. Here we offer a family of 4, a full night's entertainment plus food for $50. I challenge you to find any place else that you can do that with a family for that type of money. It's not there.
Now, I understand besides the movie and besides the change in food, you also have events that bring people out. Different events, some are funny, some are just different.
This year was our first year of partnering with the Bantam Jeep Festival. We were a featured Saturday night event, and we showed special Jeep movies on one of our screens. And we're going to continue that going forward. Every year, we will be partnered with Bantam Jeep. We do car cruises.
Excuse me, how many people came out with the Bantam Jeep?
We had over a couple hundred Jeeps come just for the Jeep event. We had a live band playing in our pavilion. We did a pig roast. It was all out, and people just had a great time.
Did I understand you had a truck night here recently?
Yes, we have did a big rig night where the people brought the cabs of their big 18-wheeler trucks. They left the trucks at home, but they brought the cabs, and we had them parking, and they just really had a great time.
How would the drivers have found out about this?
Well, we have our webpage, we're on Facebook, we advertise in the Butler Eagle, and we have a recorded telephone line.
If somebody watching now wants to get some more information, can they go somewhere to get that?
Yes, our website is starlightdrive-in.com, and Starlight Butler is our Facebook.
Tell us about some of the other events you've had and the ones you're planning for the future.
We do an annual car cruise, and we do have a DJ play, and we do a barbecue cookout for that. Last year's car cruise, we did the Back to the Future trilogy, and we actually had a Back to the Future DeLorean come to the drive-in, and people could get their pictures taken with the car. So it was a huge success. The people just loved it. So it was a great time.
When you have a special event like that, trucks and DeLoreans and things of that nature, are the same people coming back each time to see them, or does it draw new people?
Actually, some of both. We get people coming back because they enjoy it, and through word of mouth and things, we get additional people coming. So every year it gets bigger and bigger.
Is it difficult to get the first-rate movies that you really want to show here?
No, for the most part, we're able to get the movies we want. The studios get most of the box office money. Okay, so where we make our money is through concession sales. That's what keeps the business open. Okay, as I said, most of the money collected at the box office goes straight to the studios.
I understand one of the reasons the theater closed or was close to closing is because you needed new equipment. You couldn't just use the old projectors anymore?
That's correct. For decades, they were showing movies on 35 millimeter film. Now, with the introduction of the digital technology, they've gone to releasing the movies on digital. So the fewer and fewer movies were being released on 35 millimeter. Last year we had one screen on 35 and two screens on digital. When we opened this year, we still had the third screen showing 35 millimeter, but we knew we wouldn't be able to go through the whole season being able to show any 35 millimeter films. So we converted that screen to digital. So we now have all three screens are digital.
Aren't digital cameras pretty expensive?
Oh, they're quite expensive. They can be upwards of $50,000 to $70,000 each for the projector, the server, and all the associated equipment that's required.
Are they easier to operate than the film?
Yes, they're a lot easier to operate. You don't have to be there to manually operate them. The old 35s, you used to have to change reels or splice the film together and different things like that, whereas now they come to us on a hard drive that we download into the projector and are able to show it that way.
Looks like it's clouding up here. Looks like there might be some rain. Does that affect your attendance?
No, we're open rain or shine. We have people come when it's raining because they can sit in the comfort of their own car and still be able to see the movie and hear it through their FM radio.
I was told by somebody downtown the other day that you allow dogs?
Absolutely. We're pet friendly. They're part of the family too, and this is all about family experience.
What's the largest size family that's come here since you've owned the Starlight Drive-In Theater?
Well, on Thursday night's carload night. So no matter how many people in the vehicle, they only pay $16. And so Thursday night's always our biggest night for the most number of people in a vehicle. We've had upwards of 8 to 10 people in a group.
John, I see a miniature golf course over there.
Oh, yes. In the days of old, you used to have swing sets for kids to play on and things like that. Unfortunately, with insurance and liability and people always looking for easy money and lawsuits, we weren't able to do that type of feature. So we put in an 18-hole mini golf. We only charge a few bucks to play it. It's something to come early, get a good parking spot, something to do while you're waiting for it to get dark. We also put in a party pavilion. We rent that out for birthday parties, graduation parties, other special events. And if you rent the pavilion, we cater the food for you, and you get free use of the mini golf for your party, and you can watch the movie from the pavilion.
Are you optimistic? This is the first few years of your ownership. How does it look to the future of the next couple of years?
Well, I'll tell you, Larry, we've had great community support. We have over 10,000 people following us on Facebook. I had somebody leave a note on my truck thanking us for keeping the drive-in open when I was at the Home Depot. I mean, it's phenomenal, the support that we're getting. I have people come up to me saying, "Man, we're glad you kept this place open. We came as kids, and now our grandkids we're bringing our grandkids." But then again, there's a whole generation that have never been to a drive-in movie theater, the 20 and 30-year-olds. So I get a lot of people saying, "This is the first time I've ever been to a drive-in. This is a great experience." Thank you.
John, thanks for having us out. Good to be out here. We want to talk about the past, present, and future. Well, we talk about the future with you. I want to talk about the past of drive-ins and theaters generally with some other folks that were directly involved with what used to be the Pioneer Drive-In Theater.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about this drive-in theater, the Starlight Drive-In Theater, the way it grew into what it is now and the way it used to be. Brian Graft has been the manager here at this site for over 25 years. Now, you were here when it was the Pioneer Drive-In Theater. How was it in those days when you first started?
It was a little different world when we first started. Back then, we had more people on dates, whereas today we experience more families. At the time when I started, we had 3 screens. We eventually grew to 5 because of business demands. And
you say there were mostly young people coming in here. Was it because it was dark?
Well, there's a few of those, and I'm sure we probably could have a wall of shame. Yeah, it seemed like a place for friends to gather or to go on a date or whatnot. And we still have some of that, but it's the modern age here, we're seeing a return to families.
How did you get into the business to start with?
Actually, it started back when I was in college at Edinburgh University. I was essentially the film buyer for their movie program on campus. We called the studios and arranged for, the titles and the terms we paid for them. And that kind of led me to coming here. There was an ad for help at the drive-in and the local theater downtown, and I applied.
Did you ever run the cameras themselves?
Yes, actually. That was my primary job. Back when I started, I was an assistant manager / projectionist, and I would run from booth to booth and stringing up the film and taping them all together and, just keeping track of all the shows.
Is that an intricate process to do all that?
I wouldn't say intricate, but very labor-intensive in the day when we had to film. Takes a few hours to put things together or tear them down. But once you get it together, it's just a matter of stringing it through the projector and hit and go.
Now, what do you have to put together?
It comes in on several small 2,000-foot reels, and we would tape those together onto one giant platter so that the movie, once we started it, would run continuously the whole way through. That's different than the very old days. We had 2 projectors in each booth, and we had to switch reel to reel every 20 minutes.
How did you know when to switch?
Little cues on the film. Most people don't see them, but to this day, I can't get away from them if I'm trying to enjoy a movie myself. It would let you know, first, that it's coming up, and second, to hit the changeover button.
Did the film ever break?
That does happen on occasion, and when it does, we just pick up our trusty old splicer and tape and put it back together and keep going.
Now, the drive-in theaters were very big in this area. In fact, across the country, there's something like 4,000 of them back in the 1950s and 60s, and now there are less than 400. Did you see the decline in the population coming to drive-ins while you were there?
I have, actually. When I first started here, it was about 1,000 drive-ins in the country, and as I've gone over the last 20-some years, we're down to the 300.
Are the people that come today much different from the ones that came 15, 20 years ago?
Essentially, they're the same, but I think they're here now for the experience. It's something not everyone has gotten to do, and it's just a fun time that they could spend with their family. I think America is getting back to we want time together, family values kind of thing.
I think most of us would think with all the electronic gear that people have, the handheld gear, iPhones, and all those other devices in the house, that they would not want to come to something as simple as watching a film on a screen. Is that not true?
Um, I think it gives parents a break from watching their kids look at little screens all day. It provides something else for them to do, and they get some quality time together.
Back in the old days, the food available at drive-ins was pretty simple compared to the way it is today. How was it then?
Pretty much back in the day, you got your burger, your fries, maybe a hot dog and popcorn, and there wasn't too much else to it. Today, you could see anything. Drive-ins have roast beef sandwiches, meatball sandwiches, you just a variety of things. Chicken tenders is the big hot seller these days.
Now, you were also involved with the Penn Theater downtown that was also owned by the DeMarsh family that owned the Pioneer Drive-In, which is now the Starlight here. Back in those days at the Penn Theater, I'm sure you saw some things that no longer exist.
Well, as far as what no longer exists is a single-screen downtown movie houses. That's a rare treat that we had for longer than a lot of other people had, and it was just nice to have that big auditorium with the big picture and everyone experiencing that together.
Well, you're seeing a resurgence in many downtown areas. I know in downtown Butler they're trying to do something with the Penn Theater. Over in Zelienople they have the Strand Theater, which is now a full-going operation. And other small towns are trying to do the same thing. Do you see a positive resurgence in downtown theaters?
Across the country, yes, actually. I've actually done some research in that. And I think that's the thing to do. If you have a community center, if you will, the theater's your community center, then the rest of the business grow around it, and that's a positive thing.
Are the movies that are out today here at the drive-in theaters much different than the old days? I know for a while they were scare movies, sometimes they were X-rated movies. What are they today?
Today we have first-run movies that you would see day and date with the indoor theaters. So you're no longer getting those B movies that are, so-so in quality. It's the best Hollywood has to offer at a price you just can't get indoors.
Has something changed in the movie industry? Because at one time these major films were not available at drive-in theaters.
I think the bottom line is what it comes down to. They realize they're missing out on an opportunity to increase their grosses. So by including drive-ins in that, they've had, quite a resurgence in box office.
How do you know what films to book here? Because there are theaters within 50 miles of Butler, in Pittsburgh and many other places. You don't want the same movies as they have in the Regal theaters downtown or in Butler. How do you know which ones to pick?
Actually, you want to pick what's going to be the most popular movie. There's something called tracking that the studios have. We have a sense based on previews and information they release how the audience is going to react. That's one important thing. If it has a high tracking number, you know that's something you're going to want. It'll do well. I would say, though, it really doesn't matter if we have a movie across town at an indoor theater and we also have it here at the same time, because there's an audience that doesn't want to go to that indoor theater. They want the relaxed environment of the drive-in and that experience, so they'll come here.
So people that come to the drive-in theater, you say just don't go to indoor theaters?
There's some. It's about half and half. We have people come in and tell us, hey, we only go to the movies when you're open from April to October. There's some that will go indoors occasionally, but they're finding this more affordable.
Having been in the business over 25 years, do you see a future for drive-in theaters? See an expansion in theaters around the country?
I do see one. Most of the drive-ins that are left are doing very well. They've increased their attendance, which increases the grosses, which, the operators are opening second locations or reopening old locations. There's a few new ones opening. Down south, Texas has been a boom for the drive-in industry. We're hoping that just travels across the country.
Good to talk to you. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The Pioneer Drive-In Theater, which was the predecessor of this Starlight Drive-In Theater, was owned by Chester DeMarsh and the DeMarsh family. Gary DeMarsh is the brother of Chester DeMarsh. We want to talk about the early days, how your family got involved in the movie business to start with.
Okay, when my brother got out of the service, my dad told him we're going to build a drive-in movie theater in the pasture field of our farm.
That was in Grove City?
That was in Grove City. That theater is still there, but it's been closed down for about 15 years.
Now, where would he come up with the idea to suddenly turn a pasture into a drive-in theater?
He had some advertisement he saw, looked at, and he said, this is the common thing for the family to get out of the house and have the kids come to the drive-in.
There was no drive-in up there at the time?
Not at all. There was actually two indoor theaters in Grove City at that time.
Was there an immediate greeting? Did people seem to love the idea to start with?
Well, when we opened up, I was probably about 5 years old when I can remember standing on a popping popcorn on a milk crate. But I remember going outside and watching the cars come into the theater, and we had state police out there actually directing traffic because the line was from Grove City, quarter mile all the way out to the theater.
So your father was really prophetic. I mean, he really saw what was coming. What was it, just like the movie, Build It and They Will Come?
It's pretty much like that. I mean, he's been in business all his life. I mean, he had only an 8th grade education. He started in the tire business, and he worked himself up to be one of the leading tire manufacturers, retailers in Western Pennsylvania. So he had a knack of taking something and run with it.
Well, after the first drive-in theater in Grove City, what happened after that? How did you grow?
Well, basically, Chester found this place down here, and the ideal was because it was sloping territory here. The Larkfield's built on a flat. We had to build every ramp up to it. But here it's on a hillside, so people could see into the projection and watch the movie without a comfort people in front of them.
So this was the second operation for the DeMarsh family here, what was the Pioneer?
Yeah, it was the second operation that we actually built down here.
And was that the first drive-in theater in Butler?
Far as I know, it was first I knew. I was only about 11 years old to about 16 years old doing this. So I recall there was probably 3 that I know of in Butler area.
I had heard that there were 6 here altogether during the heyday back in the 50s and 60s, and now this is the only one left. Well, after the Pioneer Drive-In, which is now the Starlight Drive-In, he decided to get into the indoor movie business.
Yeah, the next one we bought was Dad and Chester bought was the Guthrie Theater downtown Grove City. And after that, Chester started going basically open up in these Bantam theaters, which is 3 theaters, indoor theaters at one time. Now we had places like in Sharon, Meadville, Altoona, a couple other places.
But now the DeMarsh Theaters also bought the Penn Theater in downtown Butler. How did that come about?
It came available, and I believe that Chester leased that for a term, and basically went in there and operated that until he actually turned it back over the lease.
Was the business in drive-in theaters much different in content from the theaters in town?
Pretty much different, because what you saw in town, and Grove City's a college town, so we got a lot of college kids while the school was going on. But the drive-in operated on a summertime basis. We actually went, and Dad thought about putting indoor heaters into the vehicle so you can actually run your car, and electric actually heated up the inside of the car during the winter months. So we almost ran 12 months out of the year at that time. But the Clifton clientele in the summertime, the family would come out and actually sat around the vehicle and actually watched the movies.
Instead of sitting in the car?
Correct. You know, they put the lawn chairs out and whatnot and let the kids run around to it. We even went to the fair that we put swings and a merry-go-round. And I can remember running a little tractor pulling on 8 or 10 little race cars. I used to run around the theater putting the kids into it and take them for a ride.
Now, you see the Starlight Drive-In Theater now, which used to be the Pioneer Drive-In Theater, and I guess you're kind of an historian when it comes to movies because your family's been in the business so long. What do you think about the way the drive-in business has changed over the years?
Well, when it first came out, I can remember we played a lot of Western-type movies, but the Western movies really brought the families out, and that's when it was fully packed. And I believe that our drive-in up in Grove City held about 300 cars at that time. Then we had a loudspeaker in the back that actually hold up another 100 cars. They just sat and listened to a big loudspeaker on a telephone pole.
Do you think the luster of drive-in theaters is coming back?
Well, I think history is kind of repeating itself, because when it first came out, it was a family-orientated type of business where you can actually take the whole family and enjoy it. There was a period that they went through that it kind of died out. We lost a lot of theaters nationwide to it, but I think it's coming back, especially with the new blood type of people into it. And I think it's finally turning around where the family's actually trying to get back out of the house and actually go outside and watch the theater.
Must be interesting for you to walk in here to the Starlight and think back the way things were, the way they peaked, the way they dipped, and now maybe they're starting to peak again. Must be an interesting observation for you.
Yeah, very much so, because I used to run this theater when I was still in high school. In juniors and senior year, I used to run it, control it, open it up, and actually close it until the last person left. And then go home and clean up and go to school the next day. So basically, it's in your blood that once you get into the theater business, it's hard to get out of it.
Are you encouraged by what you see here?
Very much so. He's done a nice job of revamping this theater, and it was going downhill at the end of the years that they were up for sale. And basically, he'd done a lot to revise what the theater used to be.
Thanks very much. Good to talk to you.
Appreciate the time.
Drive-in theaters. It looks like they're making a swing toward the profitable again, and I guess successful again. And the Starlight Drive-In Theater certainly is an indication of what the future might be for drive-in movies. I'm Larry Berg. We'll see you next time on Faces and Places.